Yes, we are like, uh, I don't know what was the agenda, but I didn't have time to fix that Bears Windows driver issue. Uh, I don't know if we have something else.
So we are stalled on the driver issue for 2 weeks now, I guess. Uh,
Yeah, actually, it's not a big one. I didn't have time for it.
yeah, it's these sort of like part-time hobby projects always stall on not the most difficult part, but the most annoying part, right? Because difficult you can work through if it's fun enough that you get nerd sniped and start doing something. Yeah, at least that's my uh, play. That's where I tend to get stuck. But yeah, oh, did you guys see the uh, rover mission got canceled? The lunar rover. Can you look into that?
Hmm.
Do we have more information than the post? Because basically the post is kind of saying that the budget, that they would need to increase the budget. That's all. But isn't it always what happens on space missions?
Yeah, but it is interesting that China is doing a sample return mission from the far side, I think. So if they succeed in that, I think will that be the first automated sample return mission? No, didn't the Russians manage to pull that off way back? One of the lunar card missions, or is this the first automated sample return?
From a planet,
Yeah, I
not
think
from
we've
an
had the actually automated sample return. The only one I can think of is the asteroid one that Japan did, right?
What about Venus? There was not something from Venus, or
No, that just landed. It never
I
took off
just
again.
landed. Yes, just images, right?
landed and then cooked.
Exactly. 400 degrees or something. It's like a
Yeah.
miracle. It lasted even like an hour or something. So, yeah, the comet is the only one I can think of.
So it would be a strategic move then, basically, to put resources, so especially budget, to other missions instead of that one.
I think the Europa mission is the next like big win NASA is going for because Mars is now almost like overdone. But I think the moon is actually harder than Mars because it doesn't have the atmosphere, so all the braking is harder.
But this was a private company mission, right? This was being done by Astrobotic or something.
Was it? I
It was
thought.
not fully. No,
Apparently,
I think Astrobotic was making this.
I do not remember that information, but the article says the rover and the lander were from Astrobotics, apparently.
Okay, so NASA is becoming a contracting agency like Boeing. I'm starting to wonder who actually builds anything if everybody is just contracting and system integrating. Okay.
Engineers do it, right?
Oh, and
We talked about Viper, 1 or 2 years ago, okay, because it was interesting. It was one of the only project that was using open source software, so especially ROS, okay. And this is, I think, when we found the F Prime open source library that is written by NASA, by the way.
I remember.
And I shared the PDF where there is more detail, where it's the Space ROS kind of a project that makes ROS specific to space missions. In particular, I think it allows to interface. There is interface software to an open source library for flight control. Okay, that is open source as well. Okay, and so it's a packaging like that. So that was quite interesting back then when we were discussing all that. Okay, it's a pity that it will not go to friction. Okay, friction. Okay. But that was interesting framing and positioning. Okay.
And I think
Seems this is the alternate mission. It's not a rover, it's just a drill.
That's an instrument
So it's
on Viper, or that was supposed to be on Viper, or that's it's different.
well, I found the name from here. So yeah, I think it was a payload on Viper, and then probably they are not sending a rover for it, and then just sending the instrument with
That's the
some other
Prime
method.
one, the Prime One payload, right?
Yeah.
£88. So that's quite some payload for a rover. Depending on what image we have of a rover, right?
It seems like a static. What was that Mars mission that was not moving but was still taking measurements?
Oh yeah,
There was a mission.
yeah. Forget what it's called. Oh,
But there is also this
Project
Cadre mission, in which they are at least sending small rovers for exploration.
We're good with small rovers.
This one. And this one.
Yeah, interesting whales.
okay. Rhett has not joined today. He's building a little toy rover with his daughter, and I finally decided to buy that sun. What is it called? I've already forgotten the name. My memory is totally going. I'll have to look up my Amazon order to see what it is. Yeah, the Sunfounder solar rover. Remember, we looked at it before.
The Galaxy rover. It's called Galaxy RVR, right? Yeah.
Sunfounder Galaxy RVR. It was 20% off, so I don't know how real these discounts are anymore, but I decided to get it. You can take a look at that if that's of interest, and then we can do a session about it when.
Does it have the solar charging? We can look
Yes.
into that.
Yeah, it does. That's why I got it. It's like I bought the parts to do a little solar experiment, but I never got beyond like just testing the voltage and actually assembling the circuit. I didn't do. So this is like a out of the box solar thing that hopefully will be enough to build intuitions, and then I can try to build my real solar.
And it's an Arduino on board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
U3. I'll
So-
share this in here.
Does it look like the settings would allow to replace the Arduino by a more powerful compute, or the power balance, the power budget from the solar panels would not be enough? Oh, there are batteries inside.
I mean, I think this they're going more for like looking like the Mars rover more than like functionality. So this is kind of like an aesthetic toy, I would say. Like I doubt it's designed to actually do a much duty. So I'm just hoping to get some experience with solar out of this. Since we are already doing the experiment of like replacing the processor on the tumbler, it would be interesting to think of like what other experiment can we do with this. Like some possibilities are, can you replace the solar panel with a higher power solar panel, or can you upgrade the battery? Some sort of like modifying experiments at the power system level rather than the processor level. So that's one possible thing you can do. But yeah, we can go through the quick review of the features. Okay, main board is an R3.
So there is sorry, but there is the Arduino, but there is also an ESP32 cam,
Yes.
right?
There's an
Oh,
ESP32 cam. So it's a separate, I guess it's Wi-Fi through a separate chip. So that's a strategy we didn't consider, right? separating out the Wi-Fi capability. What is this ESP32 cam? What is it, like a breakout?
It's no, it's
It's
just
like
the
a dev
camera
board.
integrated.
Yeah. It's like a
Ah.
dev board, so ESP32, the room, okay? And you have a camera also integrated on it.
Okay.
Wait,
I think
so
I
what's the difference between the Sunfounder board and the ESP32? Which one is more powerful?
It's like I don't know why they have doing the control with an Arduino and not with a ESP32, but
That
it's like ESP.
you just answered.
Huh. Maybe the camera is a heavy enough load that it actually needs more processing power than the motor control. Probably
Yeah,
true.
probably because of the pinouts. So that cam might not have enough funds for the control, and they wanted something easy to control the rover.
Yeah. I would imagine if there's a video camera, the video is like order of magnitude higher processing. Oh, and this looks like a specialized camera module. So it might not even have enough GPIO and stuff for that.
No, I think they just don't want, since the camera is going out on Wi-Fi, there's no reason to use it to choke the control board.
So sounds like the camera would be over the Wi-Fi connection, but I'm guessing the Arduino cannot talk over the Wi-Fi unless they've connected the Arduino to the ESP board as well. So that's
I'm sure it gets commands. In other words, you have your app controlling it. It goes to the ESP, and the ESP tells Arduino what to do.
I
mean,
don't
the
know. This
board,
looks like the Arduino is connected via hard sort of like cable for flashing. Like, how would the Arduino communicate with the ESP32?
with some sort of bus.
Let's.
I think we might be looking at it the wrong way. When it says here main board, what they mean is a board that has all the electronics on it, like the power controllers and so on. But it doesn't say here which board has the brains.
If you can open the documentation link and hardware, there is no hardware. No, the link I sent in the private chat. If you open that,
the documentations.
So if I in the StreamYard private chat, so yeah, and then if you open the shield, there is a link about that ESP32 cam. Galaxy RVR Shield. It has all the details of that board. Left side, left on the yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's connecting via serial port, I think. If you go down and say,
oh, it's an expansion for the Arduino designed by Sunfriend. Okay, got it.
If you so that camera has RX, TX, and a reset pin going to the ESP32.
Okay.
It has to connect because it doesn't have a USB.
Yeah. Okay. This is fairly complex rig for just $100 rover. So it's got two separate boards that connect via a shield board. Okay. So let's see. Anything else of interest here?
The charging circuit. Like I hadn't seen anything. There is solar panel on the left bottom
of the screen I'm sharing.
Yeah.
I was looking at a different. All right. Let's see. Where am I have too many tabs open. Hold on. There we go. Solar panel. Let's look. Okay.
Doesn't say much.
6 volt, 660 milliamp, 7.2 hours in strong sunlight.
Wow.
And 660. Okay. I forgot how to do this math, but I'm assuming it'll drain an order of magnitude faster at least when it's like running. Like
Yeah,
the
does it say it
overall.
anywhere? Does it say how much power on time and how much movement time it has?
No, but I guess you just divide the battery capacity by that max, not the max, maybe half the max ampere. 660 milliamp, I'm guessing, is like for the startup current draw of all the motors, but once it's moving, it's probably more like, I don't know, 300, 400. It looks fairly small and light. Anyway,
So they don't have the schematic of this shield because I think the charging circuit is on top of it. Because the solar panel directly connects to that shield. Then from there, everything is.
oh yeah, this is the same battery I have. So this is about, this is, yeah, I think about 700 milliamp hours. So I would guess at full draw, that would be around an hour of runtime. Yeah, so it'll take 7 times as long to charge. If that's the same battery I have, it looks like it. Wait, 700 milliamp hour is like 700 milliamps draw for 1 hour, right? If I remember correctly. This battery.
So you're saying it's good for an hour?
I'm guessing, so long as you're not driving it at like full speed.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So that's my little update. My only accomplishment, as in many other weeks, is buying something. But I'm like, I give myself more points these days for buying something because it's hard to even know enough to buy something interesting. And I think I've wasted less money over the uh, years we've been doing this project. All right. Anybody got anything else to share? I guess we're in show and tell mode this week. Yasha, what have you been up to? You always have some interesting things going on.
I think I shared the yeah, I shared the Rubik's Cube in the Discord, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Light speed.
I should actually ping the guy if they replied. But that wasn't interesting. Still waiting to hear the reply from the Guinness people. Yeah, so that was a diversion. I've been yeah, I've had a lot of stuff going on. Unfortunately, it's been detracting from. I just haven't had the cycles for sort of side exploratory robot things. The main one that I have had going though is I don't know if I've mentioned I've been co-organizing a series of hackathons here in San Francisco. They've all been under the working brand of AI in Motion because I kept going to all the AI hackathons and people were just like, I mean, it's just like insane energy. It's like I hadn't really seen that before. The breadth and depth of the kind of like excitement and speed at which people were doing things at these hackathons with this sort of like software that winks back at you. So I was like, okay, the robotic scene is a little bit sleepy around here, so we should try to get the people to hang out. And so we've done 3 of them now, where we try to get like robot people and AI people to come hang out, and they've been going really great. People have enjoyed it, and the track, because I was like, we should have a track that's a little bit more specific. The track we've been pushing lately is laboratory automation, And so we've done 2 of those now, and we've had a lot of support from the vendor Opentrons. They're very excited about it because they had their own kind of dreams of doing biological protocol generation to run on their machine. So they've been very about it. So there's been that piece, and this was because I have had a lot of interest in laboratory automation, and I have my I think I mentioned my Spice robot. That's now on a mobile base, so it can move around the room. And the side project I haven't had enough time for is to bring up my AGX Orin that I bought to actually autonomously go between tables in a room and pick up, in this case, just a biological sample plate and move
Oh,
it between stations. So that's been kind of my side project, which is, kind of out of the box ROS 2, move it on top of my little hardware platform. It's the
is it an
Scara on mobile base.
Joshua? Is it an arm or does it have wheels?
It's both. So it's an arm on wheels.
Oh,
It's mobile manipulation. It is a motor poor humanoid. So it's just an arm on wheels.
but does it look humanoid or does it look?
No, not at all. Of course not. Because it's a Scara. It's a Scara. So it's like, it's up and down and
Yeah.
like this.
If you remember the Saycan robot that Google put out, that's what it looks like, except now you put it on wheels. I think when I visited the state you showed me, it was just mounted by the wall, right? It wasn't on wheels at that time.
Yeah, it was on the wall. That's right. It was bolted statically to the wall. And the vision, the future. I always knew it was going to go on a mobile base one day. So that day is now, but I just haven't given it the brain yet.
What does the brain's going to do?
They are going to handle. So there's a number in the past 3 years. There's been a number in life sciences. There's been a number of companies that are now doing this with off-the-shelf robots. You get a mobile base from Omron, and you bolt on a robot arm on top. Very garden variety thing to do, but the challenge is always because these robot arms in life science, or let's just call it manufacturing, because in this case I'm particularly interested in life science, but there's a lot of different places that the story is the same. So you have a static robot that's bolted to a table, and all robot arms are just position controlled. So you tell them go to this point, this point, this point, and then you have your productivity just by
Right.
moving things from here to there. So the whole challenge of taking that arm and moving it around is re-registering it to the world, because your points don't work if they're not in the right coordinate frame. So you got to roll up to the new place, and then you got to re-register the offset so that your points work again. That's like the fundamental challenge so many of these things face. So the fast and expensive way to solve that is there are these cameras you can buy off the shelf that you just say, hey, camera, look at this like pattern on the table. Tell me the exact sub-millimeter offset I am relative to that pattern on the table. And the
Right.
camera just like spits out, 6 floats and you're done.
Yeah.
It's like, 10K for the camera, but if you're selling the robot for $250,000, which is what these people do, a lot of these mobile plate handling robots, people sell them for like 200K. It's like 30K for the camera, whatever. It's fine. It's easy. It works
Why is the camera that expensive?
because it's industrial automation and it's from Germany and they can charge that.
Okay.
The volume thing. But that's kind of the deal there. So my thing is like I just want to use regular vanilla cameras. This is like what is now people I think would come to know as the humanoid stack, but it has been a fundamental just mobile manipulation requirement for eons. But it's like you have some regular cameras that are not fancy, and you got to figure out your world registration in real time off of that,
Yeah, but you can have
including
these
a tool
markings
camera.
on the wall.
Hmm?
You can have these patterns on the walls that you can look at and take a picture of.
Yeah,
Right.
or you can just have the object itself be the pattern, and you can get your coordinate from training. You can look at the object and then train the system to understand the coordinate offset just by finding the anchor
So,
points on the
so,
object and getting an offset.
so really, you're describing a modular robotics, let's call it habit. People in the habit of buying bases and buying fixed arms and fixing them to the base and using some sort of position recognition in order to provide the glue.
Yep. Yeah. What I'm describing for me is really a glue project. And you can even just glue software right now because
Mhm.
like the Move It and Nav2 projects for Ross are like not terrible. Like they kind of work. So that's like I think if the I apologize to anybody who works on that project. I think they work great in most circumstances. If somebody sees me say this, because I know some of the people that develop those tools, so it's like most places they work great. It's just about gluing it together and tuning it. So you can have a very capable system now with these with these libraries with these
Well,
frameworks.
I guess my question is, do I really need to tune it? In other words, if I went to the store and bought a base and bought an arm and took the software, can I just Lego it together, or do I have another 2 days of fidgeting?
I think you can Lego it together. I mean, you got to Lego together the hardware and Lego together the software.
Hmm.
And I know Move It in particular, it likes the LiDAR data. So if you have a LiDAR in there, it's pretty easy to. It's not sorry, not Move It, Nav. So if you have LiDAR, Nav is pretty happy with that data to path plan and stuff. So yeah, if you get the right Legos, put those together, and then you get the software Legos and you glue those together. You can kind of have like a demo. Now, a demo and a pilot and a real business, those are all leaps, large leaps, right? So that's kind of
No, so
I've just been interested in kind of like the demo situation as it really is like a kind of like a point of discussion. Um, I also it's been fun. I let the for the hackathon I let people use it, so it's kind of fun to see what people build with the platform. Has been
why
the motion
why
there.
why do you call this a demo and not a pilot? What we just described.
Oh, because nobody's giving me money for it. I mean, so there are some people I've been talking with who would potentially give me some money for it, like that, with some, supporting like software and front end and stuff. But it's like I consider it a demo. It's not serious. It's like an unserious demo until um you have the problem of having customers.
No, that could also. I'm asking because demo sounds like something that only works when you squint at it and look at it from a certain direction. Pilot is something that works more reasonably under important use cases. So when I hear you saying it's a demo, not a pilot, what it sounds like is it doesn't work when Josh is not around.
Perhaps this is
It's okay. Just define your terms. It's fine.
No. I just appreciate that this shows the available gap that can be had in this terminology, especially between like startups, investors, and customers.
Okay.
um,
But it,
but for
a
me, like
pilot, a pilot is also the intention is to make a product out of it, while a demo is usually smaller, like snapshot kind of trial. Is it what we're talking about here?
I mean, if I were to just what I consider for my personal definitions here, I think a demo is internal stakeholder, internal control showing an external party.
Hmm.
A pilot is where you have, it's really a demo, but in the context of an external party. So a pilot is where you're actually doing your demo in their stuff, like in their world. And usually that's a paid pilot. Or if it's not a paid pilot, what are you doing? So usually they're giving you money and you're doing a demonstration of your system in their world, application, facility, personnel, whatever. And then, the rest it goes from there. So it's like
Got
when
it.
Figure posts a video on Twitter, that's a demo. When they post a video from like being in the BMW factory, that's a pilot. Um,
It's like
when
I'll give you an example. It's like the electric truck that was driving downhill at full speed. I forget its name. So it really depends who you're lying to. If you're lying to yourself, it's a demo because that's internal stakeholders. I mean, you have to lie to yourself to believe that it works. But if you're doing a pilot, you have the external stakeholder who has to believe in it.
I think the reason why I like this definition I gave is because I think it explains a lot of the dumb stuff that happens with demos,
Yeah,
specifically because if it's an internal only like world and stakeholder, that means you are within your own reality distortion field. And depending on the organization, that looks completely different.
right.
Like for me, especially because I've dealt with a lot of like um, agriculture and like construction-y sorts of things, those industries very low reality distortion field tolerance. So it's like I think you very quickly, if you're dealing with these people, one would hope at least that your internal reality distortion field is calibrated to that like that harsh
Absolutely.
reality. So it's like the distance from reality that my internal demo would be is much lower than that of a different application area, I think, is what it comes down to. And this is just because, like, I get that there's like a much larger and dangerous gap there versus it's a lot easier to close the gap in software, I think.
So I'm going to ask the question I asked a few weeks ago, and hopefully you give me a different answer. Do you have anything written up about this? This is a very interesting set of definitions, and it helps.
Um,
And I actually have a client right now that, from what the way you're speaking, his product, he thinks it's a pilot, but I understand it might be a demo. Okay, so it's, like I said, very interesting.
I haven't. I do like this though. I think this is a good
So do I.
short little thing because it's like it's true. It's all over the place, but I think the actual differentiating qualities, that's maybe what
Yeah, yeah,
people should be aware of more.
yeah.
Um,
I
I was actually, has anybody here heard the term? Like, I use this term like a lot, I realize, and I don't know where it came from. I say pitchware a lot. Pitchware. Has
Nope.
anybody heard this?
It's evocative, but I never heard it.
It's just because I was telling somebody because I was talking today
But that's
about how
below demo. Yeah, that's a level below demo.
pitchware is okay. This is what pitchware is in our sort of
Yeah, yeah.
environment we've set up. So pitchware is a demo in a high reality distortion field environment. So that's really like it's like
it's a
I think
jugaad for venture capitalists.
but like pitchware
It's a sales
I think
tool.
if I were to
Sales
like get
tool.
an image of pitchware, you know how there's magicians that like put a stake in the ground that they can like sit on. They'll put like a metal rod in the ground so they can like sit on it and it looks like they're levitating or whatever. To me that's pitchware. That's
Yeah, yeah.
like you are modifying the world, often physically, to make it appear that it has different governing physics that you want to happen in your world. So it's like, and it's always like, yeah, we're gonna get this pre-seed with this, and then the stake in the ground will figure out. And then that's the danger, right? That's always the
Hope.
scary part.
It's hope.
Do you guys remember what was that electric truck maker? Was it Nikola or something? Where
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they just rolled it downhill.
No,
Yeah,
so I thought it was a demo, and now I hear that it's, like I said one stage earlier, it's pitchware.
it's actually worse than pitchware, because
yes,
pitchware, I think there can be an understanding where it's like, all right, this is just a mock-up to explain the concept to you. Whereas what Nikola did, I think, is like outright fraud. Like they didn't let on that it was like a
yeah,
fake, and there was like
I
no actual electric drivetrain, right?
the only fraud was when they said that their pitchware is actually a pilot.
And
No,
yeah,
but for capital intensive projects, you might actually need pitchware, because if
You
yeah, and
always
like
need it.
I mean, they
there's a
do that. Like
place.
there's mock-ups and stuff. There's like design mock-ups. There's various sorts of things where it's like understood in the culture that this is not the real thing, right? Like that's how you would pitch a car design. Like long before you actually spec out the engineering of the car, you might like have a design mock-up. That's fair. I think that's fair if you're trying to like sell a car design to Ford or whatever.
Yeah, but you bring a good example. I just want to point out that in some products, this reality distortion field that Joshua is talking about, as if it's strong at the beginning, and as you get to a product, it slowly disappears. You still have it. So a lot of products don't actually work, or don't work as well as people want to believe. But the reality distortion field that the client has is enough to make the pilot sellable to the end
Yeah,
client.
yeah, that it really it's true. It's that attenuation to reality, that gradient as you're making the thing over time. That's really the one that I think is important for people to just be aware of. Because often, like it usually you want to have kind of like especially with hardware, you want it to be like a sort of a logarithmic, where you pretty
Yeah.
quickly close the gap. Uh, but often it's 1 year, which is a bit unnerving, or it's even worse is it's nowhere near. It's still long, far apart. But yeah, it's like I'm trying to think. There was like I'm trying to think now. The International Auto Show in Detroit. This was like, because I grew up in, well, Venkat knows Ann Arbor. But there's this big. It's like the big car show, and all they would do is show their concept cars. And concept cars are like this thing everybody knows what they are. They're almost kind of like a class in their own, where they are unapologetically something that would never run.
Like a fashion show.
Yeah, I was about to mention that fashion show, right? There's like, I think there's two dimensions here. There's like the conceptual dimension. It's like haute couture, where you basically figure out like radical new directions that are like stimulating to think about, but not necessarily practical. That's the ramp haute couture type of dimension. And the other is like degrees of realism, and there's like various scales for that, right? Like there's the old straw man to Iron Man to Steel Man kind of like scale that I think that one came from DARPA in the 50s. But what you just described, Yasha, is I think a modern Silicon Valley version of the straw man to steel man scale. It's like, fraudware, pitchware, vaporware, demoware, pilotware, and then it's like overbuiltware. Like, the Juicero is a good example of like this went way too far long before it should have been shot down at like a much flimsier stage, right? Like it's possible to go too far, like overbuild something at too early a stage. Um, I would say the Segway is also a good example. It's like over productized or something. Oh,
No, but a segue is exactly what happens when you get a pilot that believes it's a project.
Yeah.
No, they distorted the whole world to be the kind of places
Yeah.
where people can use a Segway when in fact it isn't.
Yeah. What their projections were off by a couple of orders of magnitude, right? They thought they'd sell like some 50,000 Segways in the first year, and they sold 5,000 or something. Like they completely misread what the market potential was.
No, so I'm saying the problem isn't the market. I mean, we can always blame the market. But when he said that cities would have to be redesigned, well, he
Yeah.
didn't say have to be. He said would be redesigned. What he meant to say, they would have to be redesigned. And in his world, all the cities perhaps looked like some main highway somewhere. But in reality, cities are made for humanoid robots.
Yeah. And he's I met him once to come in at some event, and he struck me along with the Dyson guy, very old school inventor type, like 1920s, Edison Tesla mindset, where they really do think like that. It's like sincere. It's not that they're trying to pull like a Simpsons monorail type fraud. They sincerely believe that, oh yeah, this thing's going to change the world, and sidewalks will be
But
redesigned.
but but it did. In other words, it caused these annoying electric scooters to come around.
I don't know.
People,
Yasha would have an opinion on that, but I think that was a separate revolution that just cosmetically looks like a continuation of the old.
no, it was inspired. They said, wait a minute, the, the guy's right. People would like to have some sort of electric vehicle that doesn't cost much, and two wheels is a good number, and we'll charge it once a day or once a week, and we'll actually charge 1/10 of the price.
I don't know. I mean, this is something you'd have to interview the original entrepreneurs to find out what they were thinking and whether they were inspired. But my sense is something the story played out completely differently. It's like batteries and motors got a lot more capable, and they probably drew inspiration more from like Back to the Future's electric hoverboard than from like the Segway. But yeah, this
Okay.
would actually be interesting to ask the original uh, skateboard and electric bike entrepreneurs how
Well,
it.
How many of
we're talking
them?
about boosted board, or we're talking about the dockless scooter craze, because
I mean,
there's a lot of different sort of like eras
exactly.
that
There
came
was
and
like
went.
half a dozen different variants of like small, light, electric, battery powered sidewalk vehicles that all came up about like whatever 8-10 years ago, right? And that was like
Yeah.
at least 8-10 years after the Segway, which with completely different motor and battery technology, different electronics for like the balancing and stuff. I think the
No balancing. No balancing. No
some of them do.
electronics.
Like the unicycle one has to.
No, no, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the bread and butter. Two wheels, battery motor,
Yeah,
and handles.
that actually
That's
came
what,
later. I think the self-balancing ones that used some sort of like stabilization technology. That yeah, I would give Segway credit for like
no, no, I am not talking about that. That of course. I'm talking about the plain vanilla
yeah,
scooters.
that too came about. The spectrum was broad. All of them appeared around the same time. I saw some things that looked self-balancing, something that were just motor and battery. So there were multiple, right?
There, it's an interesting question. I mean, because I have been involved with the doc. I did some product development stuff at Scoot Networks, uh, which was like the San Francisco electric moped share, maybe like 5 years ago. I think my observation doing some work in that situation was they were really kind of in a lot of ways unrelated, and most of it was driven by Asia, especially for the dockless scooters. They're just like making it en masse. Segway had really come and gone, and Ninebot acquired them, and then started to actually make them a bit more affordable. But like the EUC, the electric unicycle, that goes way back. I think the first one was called Solo Wheel. Like this is like 2000s. It's like a long, very long time ago, and they didn't get mass manufactured by Asia for a very long time. And because even with the electric unicycles, I'd go so far as to say that I mean, today there are wildly different classes of electric unicycles. I I'm kind of trying to delay becoming one of these people because I ride these things. No, so you can get these things now they'll go like 45 miles an hour.
Exactly.
And you have
That's
to wear a
something.
full motorcycle helmet, roll everything, because I mean you're going 40 miles an hour like on a wheel, and even with full suspension, you can do like jumps and stuff. But the solo wheel back in like the 2000s, it was just like this little made in USA little thing to get around campus on. That's kind of what it was. But the dockless scooters, I think they're fundamentally different from a Segway and a unicycle, and the one wheel is also different guy, different company. The dockless scooters, anybody can ride them with no training. Therefore, they're great for throwing around a city and trying to make money off of rides incrementally. Um, and famously, it was that challenge, like literally, of cities getting angry that there's all this pollution of scooters laying everywhere. Um,
Yeah, that was definitely a ZERP phenomenon. Just
Yeah.
because,
Yeah, it was a Zerg. It was definitely a Zerg. Yeah, Zerg
yeah,
rush.
it, because that's an example of like a pilot being scaled up to product prematurely, and in this case, the reality distortion was financial. It's like this should have been piloted with like 50 bikes in a couple of neighborhoods until the kinks were worked out. Instead, they rolled it out in 10 cities with like a million things, and that's the wrong scale at which to run the experiments they needed to run. But they could because venture capitalists were begging them to take money at zero interest, and they kind of were like, "All right, we'll just run the experiment at 10x the scale it should be run." Uh,
How many of them still exist? Like,
I still see
are
them
they still
around,
being
but
used? Because they are also causing safety issues in Finland, and so some people are like they are really powerful, and some students were carrying like three students were riding on a single scooter, and there was some accident, and somebody died. So like the Helsinki city officials are trying to bring some regulations for this. Like,
yeah,
The thing that was really fascinating to me about that whole Zerg rush was because like I said, I did this thing with Scoot Networks, and so Scoot Networks they had been operating like quite successfully an electric moped fleet for maybe like 6 or so years, and the thing that I think everybody kind of knew because what happened was there's a Zerg rush. San Francisco did a regulation and said nope to everybody, and then they're like court us to giving you a permit, and then there were initial permits that went out, and so Scoot got one of those first two permits that went out, and so they had to like follow these rules about like it has to ensure that the app says it locks to the they call it like the furniture zone on the street, so it's like out of the way, and you have to like ban users if they're not being good and yada yada. But the thing that was wild was just how differently people treat those things versus anything that's slightly larger or a moped. People actually like respect mopeds, and they're large enough that you don't ride. Like people just even if people are being people, they generally don't go on the sidewalk with them because that's just an inherently problematic thing to do for everybody involved.
yeah,
So like they don't go on the sidewalk. They are big and like scary enough that they kind of inherently respect them, and they also like people could wear a helmet. The big problem was there's no room for a helmet on these dockless scooters. The moped had like a whole thing for a helmet, and that kind of like it created this tension because it just had a completely different dynamics interacting with the public than mopeds, and that was really hard um, in that situation. And that's what I mean. It just like popped up and it turned into a product before a pilot, and it was I think for everybody involved it was kind of crazy. If you look at them these days, the dockless scooters they're kind of in between a moped and like a consumer scooter. They're like big, heavy, beefy to kind of push people off the sidewalk,
Hmm.
and because people are always doing multiple riders on there, and yeah, so they're kind of like these big, scary industrial things to help just inherently enforce that behavior.
yeah. I think it's almost like people have like an unconscious classification boundary between, all right, this is big enough that it looks like a motorcycle or moped, and therefore I'll ride it on the road. And on the other hand, this looks small enough and slow enough, I can probably get away with riding it on the sidewalk, even if it's illegal to do so. Like LA, when I was living there, the laws were all like, you can't actually ride this on the sidewalk. I barely ever saw anybody not ride it on the sidewalk. That was like more unusual than anything. Uh, since we just have a couple of minutes left, I had one quick question for you guys. Does everybody have some Legos? Oh, you don't? I thought it would be fun since we struggle to like do hands-on sessions with some of these more difficult things, like getting an embedded board to boot or something. It would be fun to do an extremely low stakes, low threshold hands-on activity, and Legos is the reason I'm thinking of this is for the last couple of months I've been so busy, I haven't had the activation energy to do anything more complex. So I find myself with like, just I'll show you, whenever I'm taking Zoom calls, all I'm doing is like fiddling with my Legos in the background. And it's actually been quite enlightening, because for the first time, I've actually like looked at it not as like a kid's toy, but with an adult eye of like, what can you learn from this? And right now, what I'm doing is using completely generic like parts buckets to just see what I can do open-ended from without like a plan or a instruction manual giving me a particular design to work with. And it's actually quite hard. Like, given a set of parts, what are the good systematic behaviors for imagining good things that can be built with that set of parts? What are the patterns that will evolve? How do you like just I'll give you an example of the kinds of things I'm doing over here. You can see this one is me trying to like improvise like an airplane looking thing. It's crappy because I don't have the right kinds of wheels or the right kinds of like wing like parts, but it's like skeuomorphism is one way you can play with Legos, right? Another one is I just wanted to get intuitions for how 2D surfaces layer, and I just have this build board, and I was like just doing this partly because I wanted to get an intuition for how multi-level like semiconductors are done. So there's another way you can go, like just explore the abstract platonic space. And this one I just made, which is I wanted to kind of like solve the problem of, instead of just moving in a straight line, can you get regular two-wheel things to form like a rotating base? So this one like rotates. So this is kind of like, given a set of parts, can you solve a particular problem, like generate rotational motion or something like that? So I'm kind of like using Lego as a sort of like the simplest possible design space with which to explore. I would call it forward state space design intuitions, because normally we work backwards. We're like, we want to build a rover that can go to Moon or Mars, and there's a lot of constraints on the goal state, and you work backwards and then ask, what materials do you need in order to like construct a design that can satisfy the constraints? And if you work forwards from a set of parts, and this is also related to my earlier interest in scavenging, like given a set of parts, what can you do with it is kind of like an interesting design discipline that at least I wasn't really taught in engineering school. It's like always backwards from goals, not forwards from materials, right? Anyway, just a suggestion. So if
This seems like Minecraft in real life.
little bit, yeah.
And do you have any pending topic or sample project that you'd like for us to work together on?
I was actually just thinking, if everybody has Lego sets or is willing to buy like a cheap generic bucket of parts, we can just have a session of like and this would be actually friendly to new people as well. We can invite more people, but it's like, all right, 20 minutes, explore the platonic design space. 20 minutes, what sort of like existing things like an airplane or a cart or whatever can you actually make with the set of parts you have? Like just work through almost like creative catalysis exercises. But yeah, if who doesn't have Lego? I saw Anurag shaking his head. You don't have Legos, right?
No, I was just thinking if it's like my kind of Minecraft, like, so there are people who print their Minecraft builds with 3D printer. So basically you
Oh, you
make
can do this
simple
online.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lego
and
has
then you
simulated.
print it. Yeah.
How many bricks can you print until next week?
Oh, Lego bricks are terrible at printing. Like if you print them, they don't mate well. The tolerances and everything are too tight. Um, so I
No,
wouldn't
once you
do that.
have the structure ready, you could make it 3D, may print the entire structure, right?
Oh, yeah,
Instead of
yeah, that's
printing the blocks.
Like a big
yeah,
brick.
Yeah.
that's a different design regime. Prototype it and then print the whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if people are interested, we can do a play with Lego session basically online.
If I'm personally interested, just maybe to know what topic we would take on,
Yeah, I'll
because
think
it
about it.
also implies a little bit the categories of bricks we play with, no?
I just ordered a whole bunch more bricks from Temu. So Temu has the off-brand cheap versions that are like a couple of orders of magnitude cheaper than Lego. So yeah, I have like some original Lego parts, but mostly it's like Temu fake bricks.
Wait, I want to try some Timu 1 cent bricks. I didn't know that was a
Yeah,
thing.
I think I got like a dozen of a particular kind of brick for like $3 or something like that. So they actually have a sale going on right now to compete with Amazon's Prime Day sales. That's kind of why this is on my mind. I had like some before. I'd already bought at Temu, but I just ordered something like 80 more bricks because you can get the really large assortment bags for like $10. But looking at the distribution, that looks mostly like tiny 1x1 or 1x2, like the long tail of extremely tiny bricks that are not that helpful. And if you want to buy like if you want a lot more of the bigger bricks, like 8x1 or 8x2 or something, it's better to like just actually buy sets of those. But yeah, you can actually, I don't know, get quite a good library of Lego parts for like, I think my entire collection is worth less than $100 at this point, not counting my actual kits. Like I did buy the Mars rover Lego Technic kit, that was good. But that's separate. I'm not mixing that with my bucket of like generic.
I just
Okay.
found something called Lego CAD or Leo
Oh yeah,
CAD,
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
virtual Lego CAD software.
Yeah, so you can do complex Lego builds on.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is also a worthwhile just browsing activity. There are people who do spectacular Lego builds, unbelievable ones. So anyway, suggestion for the next time we have a. This is something I can run with like 5 minutes notice, unlike an embedded control hackathon. So we'll save this as one of our low energy day ideas.
Well, let's see. Probably next week I'll try to fix that
Yeah.
mayor's driver problem.
But yeah, buy Lego bricks if you don't have some. But
Okay.
that should be fun. All right.
Okay.
We're done.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.